Hey guys! Tonight, let's drift far away, into the golden deserts of ancient Persia, where under a sky full of stars, a lonely princess meets a humble astronomer. Together, they learn the language of the heavens, and write their forbidden love among the constellations themselves. This is a story of silence, starlight, and love that outlasts time. So find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and let the night carry you away. If you enjoy peaceful historical tales like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the little bell. It helps more dreamers find their way here. Crescent moon sparkles. In the heart of the Persian desert, where the air shimmered like glass by day and turned to silver at night, there stood a palace built from rose-colored stone. Its walls were tall and silent, its courtyards echoing only the sound of wind and fountains. Inside those walls lived Princess Layla, daughter of King Samir of Shiraz, the most powerful man between two seas. Yet despite her riches, Layla's world was made of stillness. Every morning, maids brushed her hair with ivory combs, and musicians played gentle songs to wake her. But she often stared beyond the open arches, her gaze caught by the infinite desert, a world that stretched past the horizon, endless and alive, while her own life felt paused, like a painting hung too long on the wall. Layla had never stepped beyond the palace gates. She knew the scent of jasmine, not of sand, the color of silk, not of starlight. And so, when night came, she would walk alone on the terrace, looking up at the sky, that endless kingdom above her. It was her secret window into freedom. The stars in Persia were sharp and bright, each one trembling like a heartbeat in the vast dark. She would whisper to them, the way one speaks to old friends. Do you ever tire of shining? Do you ever wish to rest? But the stars said nothing, only blinked in their silent rhythm, patient and ancient. Sometimes, she imagined each star was a person, a traveler, a scholar, a dreamer, trying to send messages through light. It made her feel less alone. Yet that night, something was different. As she leaned on the cold marble railing, she noticed a faint glow from one of the palace towers, a soft golden pulse, steady and rhythmic. It wasn't a lantern or a torch. It flickered in patterns, like signals. Curiosity stirred within her. She had heard rumors of the man who lived in that tower, the royal astronomer, a quiet scholar said to speak to the stars themselves. Her father often mentioned him during council, praising his wisdom, though he never invited him to dine. He was a man of science, not of royal blood. Layla watched that distant light blink and fade. A question rose inside her like a whisper. What does he see when he looks at the sky that I cannot? The desert wind swept across the terrace, lifting her veil, and she closed her eyes. For the first time, she felt the night not as emptiness, but as a living thing, breathing, waiting, watching her in return. Down below, beyond the palace gardens, the dunes stretched endlessly, quiet, glowing silver under the moon. Layla imagined herself walking there barefoot, her footprints swallowed by the sand, her heart finally free of duty and name. She didn't yet know that somewhere in that same palace, the astronomer was watching the same stars, and that their destinies were about to intertwine like two distant constellations that had always been waiting to meet. The nights in Shiraz were made of whispers, soft winds brushing through palm leaves, fountains murmuring in marble courtyards, and the faint hum of crickets singing to the moon. But inside the palace, silence ruled. Servants walked like shadows, guards stood as still as statues, and candles burned low, their flames barely moving. And yet, Princess Layla could not sleep. Each night, after the maids left her room and the last light faded from the corridors, she would lie beneath a canopy of white silk, eyes wide open, watching the dance of shadows on the ceiling. Sleep never came easily to her. Her thoughts wandered, to the stories she was forbidden to live, to the desert beyond the walls, to the stars she could see only from afar. Doctors from distant lands had offered remedies, rosewater infusions, soft music, even prayers whispered by holy men, but nothing quieted her mind. The palace felt too still, too heavy, as if even her dreams were trapped behind stone. So, each night, when the moon climbed high, Layla would rise from her bed, wrap a light shawl around her shoulders, and walk barefoot through the quiet corridors toward the terrace. Out there, under the open sky, she could breathe again. The night air was cool, scented faintly with myrrh and sand. The city of Shiraz stretched far beyond the palace gates, its rooftops glowing silver under moonlight. In the distance, the desert shimmered like a sleeping ocean. Layla tilted her face upward. The stars were bright tonight, scattered diamonds on dark velvet. Some shimmered faintly, others burned with a steady glow, and together they formed strange, secret shapes. She didn't know their names, but she spoke to them anyway, softly. "If I could trade my crown for a single night among you," she whispered, "I would." Somewhere far above, a shooting star streaked across the sky, a flash of light that vanished too soon. Layla smiled faintly. "Even stars fall, it seems," she said to herself. Behind her, the palace loomed, tall, silent, watchful. Inside, her life was measured and proper, lessons in poetry, embroidery, the language of courts and treaties. She was the king's only child, bound to marry a prince she had never met. But here, under the open night, she was simply Layla, a girl who couldn't sleep, speaking to stars that didn't answer. That same night, across the palace in a high tower, the royal astronomer stood by his instruments, charting the movement of the planets. His name was Ramin, though few in the palace ever spoke it aloud. The king valued his wisdom but kept him apart, as if the man who touched the heavens did not belong among mortals. Ramin adjusted a brass astrolabe, its surface glinting in the lamplight. His notes were careful, precise, yet his gaze often drifted beyond his charts, toward the very same terrace where the princess stood. He had seen her before, a quiet figure in white, watching the sky as he did. He didn't know her name, but he recognized that look, the gaze of someone searching for meaning beyond the reach of hands. Two sleepless souls, under one sky, unaware that their nights were already intertwined. And as the moon climbed higher, a soft wind carried across the rooftops, rustling the palm leaves, whispering like a secret yet to be told. "The stars remember," it seemed to say. "And they are watching." High above the sleeping palace, in a round stone tower lit by a single oil lamp, Ramin the astronomer worked through the night. The air was still, heavy with the scent of ink, brass, and candle wax. His observatory was a world of quiet order, shelves of rolled scrolls, maps of stars painted in deep blue and gold, and delicate instruments gleaming under lamplight. For most men, the night was a time of rest. For Ramin, it was when the universe awoke. He traced the slow arc of a star through his telescope, a polished brass tube that once belonged to his teacher. With careful precision, he marked its position on parchment, his handwriting small and steady. He had been recording the heavens for 12 years, mapping every movement, every shift of light. But lately, he had begun to notice something unusual, not in the stars, but in himself. Every few nights, a faint flicker of light would appear on the palace terrace far below his tower. A warm glow, soft and unsteady, like the flame of a candle held by an unseen hand. At first, he thought it was a guard, or a servant passing by. But as nights passed, he saw her, a figure dressed in white, standing motionless beneath the stars. She would stay for hours, silent, her gaze lifted toward the sky. He found himself timing his work by her presence, beginning his notes when she appeared, closing his books only when her light finally vanished. He didn't know her name, but her stillness spoke more than words. She seemed to share the same unspoken language as the stars, calm, patient, endless. That night, a sandstorm had passed earlier, leaving the sky unusually clear. Every constellation shimmered brighter, as if newly born. Ramin leaned out over the balcony, breathing in the cool air, and saw her again. The princess. She stood at the terrace edge, hair glinting like dark silk, her shawl rippling faintly in the breeze. A single lantern burned beside her. Without thinking, Ramin whispered into the wind, so softly it was almost prayer. "Do you see them too?" Of course, she could not hear him. The distance between them was vast, walls, gates, rules, and names that could not be crossed. Still, the words left his lips, carried away by the night air. Down below, Layla lifted her head, as if something had brushed past her ear. For a heartbeat, she turned, not toward the city, but toward his tower. It was only a moment, a small turn of her gaze, but for Ramin, it felt as though the stars themselves had moved. He stepped back, his heart unsteady. "Foolish," he murmured. "You speak to the wind, and expect the heavens to answer." But even as he said it, a strange peace settled over him. For the first time in years, the night didn't feel lonely. He sat down at his desk and opened a fresh scroll. In the top corner, he wrote a single line in neat Persian script. "There is a new star tonight, rising from the terrace of Shiraz." Then, without quite realizing it, he smiled. Outside, the desert wind softened, the moon climbed higher, and two sleepless souls, one in a tower, one on a terrace, watched the same sky, each unaware that their fates had just begun to weave together. Some stories begin not with thunder, but with silence. And under the Persian night sky, silence can echo forever. Before Ramin became the royal astronomer of Shiraz, he was just a boy who loved the night. He grew up in a small desert village, a cluster of clay houses pressed between dunes and date palms. His father was a scribe, his mother a weaver. They had little, but every evening, after work was done, Ramin would climb onto the roof of their home and stare at the sky until sleep pulled him away. The desert sky was endless there, no lamps, no walls, only stars upon stars. They were his first teachers. When other children chased scorpions and played with pebbles, Ramin would draw shapes in the sand, circles for the moon's face, dots for constellations. He didn't know their names yet, but he already felt they were speaking to him in a quiet, ancient code. One night, when he was 10, an old traveler stopped in their village. The man carried scrolls wrapped in silk, and when he spoke, he talked of science, of geometry, of the wisdom of the heavens. He showed the villagers a polished brass disc, an astrolabe, and with it, he measured the height of the stars. The others quickly lost interest. But Ramin stayed. He listened for hours, asking question after question, until the traveler smiled and said, "You have the eyes of a listener, boy. keep watching the sky. It will answer you, but only if you are patient. That night, the traveler gave him a small gift, a shard of brass no larger than a coin, engraved with tiny numbers. To remember the measure of the moon, he said. From that moment, Ramin's life changed. He learned to read by the light of oil lamps, copying his father's manuscripts until his fingers cramped. He memorized the movements of the stars, charting them in the margins of his books. The village called him the boy who never blinked at night. Years passed. He walked to Shiraz on foot, carrying a single satchel and that small brass coin. There, he found the great observatory, a marble dome filled with instruments, scholars, and scrolls. It was more magnificent than any dream he'd ever had. He studied under the royal astronomer of that time, an aging man named Master Ziad, who recognized the boy's quiet hunger for knowledge. You seek not fame, Ziad told him, but truth. That is the first sign of wisdom. Under Ziad's patient guidance, Ramin learned to read the heavens, not as magic, but as mathematics written in light. He learned how each star moved, how the moon changed shape, and how the shadows of the sun could tell the hour of the world. But he also learned something Ziad never taught, that the more he understood the stars, the lonelier he felt among men. When Ziad died, Ramin inherited his post, not out of ambition, but out of quiet devotion. He was 30 years old, living in a tower high above the city, speaking more to the stars than to people. And though the world below was filled with laughter and light, Ramin remained the scholar of shadows, a man who measured the moon but had no one to share its glow with. Until that night, when a faint light flickered on the terrace below. Until her. The princess who could not sleep. The tower was quiet that night, filled only with the sound of paper rustling and the soft hum of the desert wind slipping through the open window. Ramin sat at his table, a long strip of parchment spread before him, covered in lines, dots, and elegant curves drawn in dark ink. He was mapping the heavens, one of his many endless tasks for the royal court, charting the position of the constellations as they drifted through the seasons. Each movement meant something: tides, harvests, the timing of journeys and prayers. But lately, his maps had changed. Somewhere between the ink and the stars, he had begun to leave traces of something more human, a curve drawn too tenderly, a star marked not for its brightness, but because it reminded him of a gaze that had once lifted toward his tower. He didn't mean to, but the princess had found her way into his charts. The thought made him pause, a faint smile flickering across his face. He leaned back, rubbing his eyes, the candlelight painting his hands in gold. Outside, the night stretched vast and quiet. The moon hung low, a perfect crescent, delicate and thin. He adjusted his telescope and peered through it, tracing its rim. The details fascinated him still, the rough craters, the shadowed valleys, the faint edge that glowed like silver dust. As he watched, a faint movement caught the corner of his eye, a shimmer of light from the terrace below. There she was again. The princess, dressed in white, standing beneath the same moon he was measuring. She held no lantern this time, only the pale light of the heavens touched her face. She looked small, almost fragile, against the vast desert night, yet something in her stillness felt strong, like a note that never fades. Ramin found himself whispering her image into his mind, trying not to let his heart disturb the calm. She watches the same sky, he murmured softly. Perhaps she feels what I feel, that the stars are both a map, and a mirror. He turned back to his parchment, dipped his quill into ink, and drew a new constellation, one that didn't exist in any chart. A simple pattern, 3 stars for her eyes, 1 for her voice he had never heard, and a 5th, smaller point, for the quiet distance between them. When the ink dried, he looked at it for a long time, his breath slow and even. Then, with a faint laugh at himself, he whispered, "A foolish man, drawing what he cannot name." He sealed the scroll with wax and placed it among the others, hidden, but known to him alone. Far below, on the terrace, the princess tilted her head slightly, as if sensing something. The faintest of breezes brushed past her cheek, warm, steady, and scented faintly with candle smoke. She looked toward the tower. A tiny light flickered there, golden and alive. For a moment, her heart eased. She did not know why. But she stayed longer that night, until the moon began to fade and the first blush of dawn colored the sky. And in the tower, Ramin did not sleep. He sat beside his telescope, waiting for the stars to vanish, not because he wished to see them go, but because he wanted to know that she was watching them disappear too. In the silence between 2 lights, candle and moon, something unnamed began to grow. Morning came to Shiraz in waves of gold and rose. The desert shimmered, the city stirred awake, and the palace bells rang softly through the corridors. In the highest tower, Ramin had not slept. He stood at the window, watching the light spill over the dunes, painting the sand in shifting color. The night's quiet was gone now, replaced by distant footsteps, the clatter of servants, and the faint echo of prayer from the mosque beyond the palace walls. He turned away from the window, his eyes heavy but his mind still humming with thoughts of the stars, and of her. Then came the knock. A guard bowed deeply in the doorway, his armor polished and gleaming. "Royal Astronomer," the guard said, "His Majesty summons you to the Hall of the Sun." At once. Ramin's hand stilled over his notes. The king rarely called for him directly. Usually, he sent scribes with written questions about harvests, eclipses, or omens. A personal summons meant something larger, something uncertain. He gathered his scrolls, adjusted his robes, and followed the guard down the long spiral staircase. The Hall of the Sun was vast, open to the morning light. Tall pillars carved with verses of ancient poets lined the sides, and the air smelled of sandalwood and gold dust. At the far end, King Samir of Shiraz sat upon his throne, a man of commanding stillness, wrapped in robes the color of dawn. Beside him, scribes and ministers whispered like cautious birds. When Ramin entered, he bowed low. "Your Majesty." The king's gaze was calm but sharp. "Rise, astronomer," he said. "Tell me, how fares the sky?" Ramin straightened. "Clear, sire. The stars move as they always have. The moon begins its waxing tonight." The king smiled faintly. "You speak as though you trust them more than men." Ramin lowered his eyes. "The stars do not deceive, my king. They follow their paths without pride or fear." The hall grew quiet. For a moment, the king seemed to study him, not as a scholar, but as a man. Then he said, "The empire depends on those who see what others cannot. You will prepare a report on the coming alignment. My seers whisper that it may mark a season of change." Ramin nodded. "As you command." But before he could bow again, the king's tone shifted, softer, almost reflective. "Tell me, astronomer, when you look at the stars, do you ever wonder if they look back?" The question caught him off guard. Ramin hesitated. "I wonder, Majesty," he said carefully, "if they remember." The king's lips curved in a half-smile. A poet's answer. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting. "There is something else. My daughter, the Princess Layla, she has grown restless. She spends her nights awake, walking the terraces. I wish you to chart an auspicious date for her betrothal. The stars may soothe her heart." The words struck Ramin like cold water. He forced himself to bow. "As you wish, my king." The audience ended. Ramin stepped back, his heartbeat uneven. As he left the hall, the murmurs of courtiers followed him, soft, fleeting, like echoes in a dream. Outside, the sunlight felt harsh. He walked quickly through the courtyards, past the pools and palms, until he reached the solitude of his tower once more. He dropped his scrolls on the table and pressed his hands against the cool stone wall. The world had shifted in an instant. The stars, which had always been his refuge, now seemed like witnesses to something forbidden. The king wanted him to read the heavens for the princess's marriage. But in the quiet depths of his heart, he knew, he had already begun reading them for her. Some destinies are written not in words or crowns, but in light. And once a man sees that light, he cannot look away. Night had fallen over Shiraz like a soft velvet curtain. The desert beyond the palace glimmered under a crescent moon, and the city's rooftops reflected the silver light, calm and unhurried. On the palace terrace, Princess Layla moved quietly, her bare feet brushing over cool marble. She carried a small lantern, its flame flickering gently in the wind. The air was scented faintly with jasmine and the distant desert sand. She had risen from her bed without knowing why, drawn to the night as if it held answers she could not find in daylight. Tonight, the world felt different. The sky was unusually clear, stars scattered like scattered diamonds, each one bright enough to cast its own shadow. She tilted her head and whispered, "Perhaps someone else is watching too." Far above, in the observatory tower, Ramin adjusted his telescope and found himself staring not at the stars, but at the terrace below. He had noticed her presence for nights now, but something about tonight made him pause. She seemed smaller than the tower imagined, yet the light she carried, soft, unwavering, was enough to pull his attention from the heavens. The stars, which usually held him captive, faded for a moment into background. Layla looked up, feeling the pull of the tower's window lights. A sudden sense of recognition washed over her, though she had never met the astronomer. Something in the stillness of his room, the quiet discipline of his gaze, mirrored her own nights of solitude. Slowly, she lifted her lantern higher, letting the glow stretch toward the tower. Ramin saw it flicker against the darkness and, for a heartbeat, felt the weight of the world fall away. He whispered to himself, barely audible, "The stars are not alone tonight." The terrace became their meeting place without a word spoken, their space shared across distance and duty. The princess remained wrapped in moonlight, and the astronomer in candlelight, each breathing in the quiet of the night. For hours, they watched, not the sky, but each other's light. And though neither spoke, a fragile connection formed, delicate as the new crescent moon, yet stronger than the palace walls that separated them. And as dawn began to stretch its pale fingers across the city, Layla lowered her lantern, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Ramin turned back to his telescope, his hands steadier, his mind sharper, and yet full of a new, unspoken thought. Some lights, once noticed, cannot be ignored. And some hearts, once awakened, cannot return to sleep. That night, the terrace was quiet, the city below breathing softly in its sleep. Princess Layla had returned, carrying her small lantern, though its light now seemed almost unnecessary. The stars shone so brightly they painted the marble in silver and blue. Ramin stepped out from the observatory tower, cautious and deliberate. He had brought no instruments, no charts, only a willingness to speak, to share what he knew of the heavens. "Why do you watch the stars?" he asked gently, though not expecting an answer. Layla tilted her head, her hair catching the moonlight. "I do not know," she admitted softly. "Perhaps because they move, yet never leave. Perhaps because they listen." Ramin nodded, sensing the honesty in her words. "They do move," he said. "Every night, they shift. But some, like the North Star, remain steady. They guide travelers, sailors, and dreamers. They remind us there is constancy in a changing world." He knelt by her side, pointing to the sky with one finger. "See that star, high above the horizon? Polaris. It does not wander. All others revolve around it, but that one, it stays. Always." Layla's eyes followed his hand, and she felt something inside her settle, as if the star itself had whispered reassurance. "Can they show us our own paths?" she asked quietly. Ramin hesitated. "Perhaps. They show what is possible, if you learn to look carefully. They remind us of direction, not destination. And sometimes, they tell stories. Old stories, and stories that are waiting to be written." He paused, the wind brushing past them, soft and warm. For a long moment, they said nothing, each listening to the night. The stars seemed closer now, their faint twinkling like an echo of their shared silence. Layla tilted her head toward him. "Will you teach me?" Ramin smiled faintly. "If you wish. But you must promise something first." "Anything." "Patience," he said. "The stars do not hurry. And if we are to understand them, neither should we." The princess nodded, her heart light, the desert wind carrying away the tension she hadn't realized she held. For hours, he pointed out constellations, the hunter, the swan, the twins that always chased each other across the sky. He spoke of planets that moved like dancers, of distant suns that had already died but whose light still traveled toward them. And Layla listened. Not as a princess to a tutor, but as a dreamer to a kindred soul. By the time the first hint of dawn colored the horizon, a bond had formed between them, delicate, unspoken, and fragile as the morning light. A bond that, like the North Star, would remain steady, no matter how the world shifted. Some lessons are not written in books. Some constellations are not in the sky, but in the quiet between two hearts. The terrace had become a world of its own, a quiet sanctuary above the palace, where the air smelled faintly of jasmine and desert sand, and the only sounds were the soft rustle of night winds and the distant hum of the city. Princess Layla stepped lightly onto the marble, her lantern now forgotten. The stars above seemed to shine just for her tonight, bright and steady, as though waiting for a new story to be told. Ramin appeared beside her, holding a small brass astrolabe. He moved carefully, conscious of every sound, yet the night seemed to welcome him. "Do you hear it?" he asked softly. Layla tilted her head. "Hear what?" "The night," he said. It has a rhythm. A song that only those who pause long enough can hear. For a moment, they simply stood together, listening. The desert was silent except for the faint whisper of wind over the dunes. And then, a small, genuine laugh escaped Layla's lips. It was soft, delicate, like the ringing of tiny bells. Ramin froze, startled by the sound, but a smile crept onto his face. "I think the stars are smiling too," he said quietly. Layla laughed again, and this time, it was a little louder, spilling over the terrace like water. "You make the night seem lighter," she said. He shook his head. "I only point at what is already there. The night is always full of wonder. Most simply do not see it." Together, they traced patterns in the sky, Ramin pointing out constellations, Layla naming them with her imagination. She called one, the dancing falcon, another, the desert swan. He corrected her gently when needed, but never with harshness. Instead, he let her creativity soar, allowing the night to become a canvas for their shared wonder. Hours passed without notice. The moon climbed higher, casting silver across the terrace, until both felt it was nearly dawn. Yet neither wanted to move. The night had become a companion, the stars a chorus, and their laughter, soft, rare, and unguarded, a bridge between two lonely hearts. Finally, Layla whispered, almost to herself. "I never thought the night could feel like this." Ramin looked at her, and for a heartbeat, words failed him. The stars seemed to pause in acknowledgement, as though the universe itself had bent closer to listen. Some nights are not counted in hours or minutes. Some nights are measured in moments, in glances, in the sound of laughter shared quietly under the stars. As the first pink streaks of morning touched the horizon, they reluctantly parted. Layla returned to her chambers, her heart lighter, her steps softer. Ramin returned to his tower, but the brass astrolabe in his hands felt warmer, as if carrying a new kind of light, one that had nothing to do with the heavens. And so, under the silent Persian night sky, a quiet bond had been formed, delicate, unspoken, and luminous. A bond that would grow slowly, like the steady turning of the stars, and perhaps, one day, write its story across the heavens themselves. The nights in Shiraz had grown longer, cooler, and more inviting. The desert beyond the palace walls stretched like a silent ocean, and the city below lay still under the gaze of countless stars. For Princess Layla, the terrace had become a secret haven. Each evening, she would rise quietly, careful not to awaken the servants, and move toward the moonlit marble. There, the world felt infinite, and her heart, restless during the day, found a fragile peace. Tonight, she was not alone. Ramin, the royal astronomer, had brought a small telescope, polished and gleaming. He set it carefully on the terrace, adjusting the lenses so that she could see the night sky as clearly as he did. "Look," he whispered, pointing toward the northern horizon, "the Great Bear is turning slowly tonight. And there, just above it, the Pleiades cluster sparkles like a scattering of lanterns." Layla leaned in, her breath catching. The stars shimmered through the telescope, tiny fires frozen in time. She felt as if she could reach out and touch them. "Do you see them?" Ramin asked softly. "Even though they seem far, they are part of the same sky as you and I. And sometimes, the sky reminds us that distance cannot break what is meant to shine." Layla nodded, her hand brushing the telescope as if to claim a small piece of that distant light. She smiled faintly. I never thought the stars could feel like a secret shared between two people. Ramin hesitated, then spoke, almost in a whisper. Some secrets are safest when the world does not know them. Tonight, the stars belong only to us. For hours, they traced constellations, named imaginary ones, and shared quiet observations. Layla would tilt her head toward him, pointing at a star she imagined as a bird, a flower, a story yet untold. He would adjust the telescope, nod, and gently add the names of stars known to men, blending knowledge and imagination. The world beyond the palace ceased to exist. There were only the terrace, the night, and the soft rhythm of two hearts learning the language of the sky. As the night deepened, a gentle breeze lifted Layla's shawl, carrying the faint scent of jasmine and desert sand. Ramin reached out instinctively, steadying it. Their hands brushed, a spark so subtle it might have been imagined, yet it lingered, warm and alive. Layla looked at him, a faint blush on her cheeks, and whispered, "It feels like the stars are holding our secret for us." Ramin nodded, unable to look away. "And if they ever forget?" She smiled softly. "Then we will remind them." The hours passed, unnoticed. When the first pale hint of dawn colored the horizon, they parted silently, each carrying the quiet warmth of the other into their solitary chambers. Some connections are made not with words, but with light. And some nights are remembered forever, even when the sun returns. The terrace was quiet once more, the city of Shiraz below wrapped in a soft morning haze. The desert beyond stretched endlessly, glowing faintly with silver dust left from the night. Princess Layla stepped lightly onto the marble, her heart still carrying the warmth of the previous night. She found Ramin already there, leaning over his telescope, the brass glinting softly in the moonlight. "Good evening," she whispered, smiling. "Good evening, Princess," he replied, though there was a gentleness in his voice that made her forget the formalities. "Tonight, I will tell you a story. A story written not in words, but in stars." Layla settled beside him, the chill of the marble beneath her forgotten. "Orion," he began, pointing to a bright constellation above, "is a hunter. Strong, proud, fearless, and doomed to wander the skies forever, chasing what he cannot reach." Layla's eyes followed his finger, tracing the glowing lines of stars. "Doomed?" she asked softly. Ramin nodded. "Yes. Yet there is beauty in his journey. Every star in his belt, every footstep across the heavens, tells of courage, of perseverance, of longing. He teaches us that even in pursuit of something beyond our grasp, there is purpose." She tilted her head, thinking of her own restlessness, her nights of wandering the terrace, her longing for something unknown. "Is Orion alone?" she asked. "Not entirely," Ramin said. "He is watched by the Pleiades, the seven sisters. They guide him, remind him, keep him company. Even when he cannot see them, they are there." Layla smiled faintly. "Like friends?" "Exactly," Ramin whispered. "Or companions. Sometimes, stars remind us that we are not truly alone, even when the night feels endless." For hours, he told her more stories, of the scorpion that chased Orion across the sky, of the twins who always looked out for each other, and of a lonely swan who circled silently above the world. Each story was slow, deliberate, told as if each word were a star itself, shining softly in the night. Layla listened, mesmerized. She felt a quiet connection growing, not just to the heavens, but to the man beside her, who spoke not only of stars, but of patience, courage, and the secret music of the night. When the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, she whispered, "I think. I understand now. Even longing can be gentle, if we share it." Ramin nodded. And even silence can be a gift, if it is shared with someone who listens. They sat together for a while longer, quiet, letting the night stretch thin as the sky changed colors. And though they would part before sunrise, something had been planted, a small, steady light, like a hidden star, waiting to grow. Some stories are written in the heavens, and some, in the quiet hearts of those who dare to look. And sometimes, the brightest stars are the ones we find within ourselves and others. The night had settled softly over Shiraz, draping the palace and desert in deep indigo. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and warm stone, carrying a gentle hush that made even the fountain seem quieter than usual. Princess Layla moved onto the terrace, her small lantern in hand. The flame danced with the rhythm of the night, casting gold across the marble. She found Ramin already there, adjusting the telescope as though it were a familiar friend. "Good evening," she said softly, stepping closer. "Good evening," he replied, without looking up, but his voice carried a warmth that made her chest ache slightly. For a long moment, they stood in silence, letting the stars themselves speak. Then Ramin said, "Tonight, I will show you something special. Not a constellation, not a story, but a light that is smaller than the moon, yet brighter than any star." He guided her to a small brass lantern he had kept hidden in the observatory. The glass reflected the night sky, but inside, a tiny candle burned steadily. "This," he whispered, "is a reminder. Even when darkness surrounds us, there is a light that does not flicker. Sometimes, all we need is to notice it." Layla reached out, her fingers brushing the lantern. She felt warmth radiate from it, soft and steady, like a heartbeat. "It's comforting," she said. "Yes," Ramin said. "And sometimes, that light is not just in the lantern. Sometimes, it lives in people. Quiet, patient, waiting to be discovered." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the candle's glow. "Do you think that is what the stars are like?" Ramin smiled faintly, turning the lantern so it caught her face. "Exactly. They remind us that even in vast darkness, light can guide us. And sometimes, light is best shared." They spent hours like that, pointing to stars, sharing stories, and tracing constellations across the sky. Their hands occasionally brushed, a touch so soft it seemed to belong more to the night than to the palace. Every small smile, every quiet laugh, built a bridge between them, delicate and luminous. At one point, Layla whispered, almost to herself, "I feel a little less alone tonight." Ramin's voice was barely audible. "Nor am I. Not anymore." As the horizon began to brighten with the first hint of dawn, they reluctantly parted. The lantern remained between them, a small, steady reminder of the night they had shared. And in her heart, Layla carried the glow. Not from the lantern, not from the stars, but from the quiet bond forming between her and the man who spoke the language of the heavens. Some lights do not fade with the coming day. And some hearts, once touched by shared wonder, will never be the same. The desert night stretched endlessly beyond Shiraz, a vast canvas of sand and starlight. The city below slept under the gentle hush of moonlight, and the palace rose silently, tall and still, above its quiet streets. Princess Layla slipped onto the terrace once more, her shawl wrapped lightly around her shoulders. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of distant dunes and jasmine. She carried no lantern tonight, trusting the stars to guide her steps. Ramin emerged from the tower, holding a small parchment in one hand and a brass compass in the other. "I thought you might like a story," he said softly. "One not in the heavens, but across the dunes." Layla tilted her head. "Across the dunes?" He smiled faintly. "Yes. Some nights, the desert itself speaks. If we listen closely, we can hear whispers of journeys long past, caravans, travelers, poets, and dreamers." Together, they stepped onto the outer walkway, moving carefully along the marble edge. Below, the desert stretched silver and quiet, like an ocean frozen in moonlight. Ramin unrolled the parchment, showing a delicate map of the dunes. Small dots marked the places where travelers had paused, oases hidden between hills, and pathways that curved under the stars. "Every dot is a story," he whispered. "Every path is a memory waiting to be discovered." Layla leaned close, tracing the lines with her finger. "It feels endless," she said. "Like the night itself." "Exactly," he murmured. "And yet, each step we take, even a small one, leaves its mark." For hours, they spoke quietly, sharing imagined journeys across the desert. Layla laughed softly at some of the clever names he gave to hidden oases, and Ramin smiled at the way her eyes sparkled under the starlight. At one point, the wind carried a distant sound, faint, like a voice across the dunes. Layla held her breath. "Do you hear that?" Ramin nodded. "The desert speaks in whispers. It remembers every footstep, every story. Tonight, it is ours to hear." They walked slowly along the terrace, their shoulders nearly touching, sharing the quiet intimacy of someone who knows the other's heart without words. And in that stillness, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, echoing the gentle warmth growing between them. Some journeys begin not with movement, but with whispers. And some nights are remembered forever, when hearts meet quietly beneath endless skies. The moon hung low, silver and calm, over the desert beyond Shiraz. The air smelled faintly of warm sand and distant wildflowers, carrying a hush that made the night feel endless. Princess Layla stepped onto the terrace, her shawl fluttering softly in the gentle breeze. She carried no lantern tonight, she had learned to trust the night, to let the stars and moon guide her. Ramin met her at the edge, a small satchel slung over his shoulder. He had brought brushes, ink, and parchment, but Layla noticed the quiet gleam in his eyes first. "Tonight," he whispered, "we will leave stories where no one can see them, except the wind." They stepped carefully onto the soft sand of the terrace courtyard below. Ramin knelt and opened the satchel, revealing brushes and ink. "We will write in the sand," he said. "Stories of the stars, of journeys, of whispers across the dunes. The night will keep them safe until the morning wind carries them away." Layla smiled, kneeling beside him. She dipped a brush into ink and traced delicate lines on the sand, drawing patterns that reflected the constellations above. Orion, the Swan, the Pleiades, all appeared beneath their fingertips, connected by invisible threads of imagination. As they worked, Ramin told her small tales of travelers lost and found, poets who sang to the stars, and secrets hidden in desert winds. Layla listened, her hands moving carefully, adding shapes and small symbols that only she and Ramin would understand. At one point, she paused and whispered, "Do you think anyone will ever see these stories?" Ramin shook his head gently. "No. And yet, they exist. Even if unseen, they matter. They remind us that the world holds beauty in places we may never walk, and secrets in moments we may never speak aloud." Layla looked at him, a faint warmth in her chest. "Like us?" He smiled, brushing sand from his hands. "Exactly." They continued under the quiet moon, writing, drawing, and laughing softly at imagined adventures. Their stories intertwined, hers playful, his patient, leaving invisible footprints across the desert terrace. When the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, they stepped back to admire their work. The sand held their secrets, delicate and fleeting, waiting for the wind to carry them, yet permanent in memory. Some stories are not written in books. Some stars shine not in the sky, but in shared moments of quiet wonder. As they returned to the tower, side by side, Layla realized that the night had given her something more than stories, a companion who understood the language of both silence and light. And Ramin, walking beside her, felt the same, as if the stars had arranged themselves just for them, leaving traces in the sand and whispers across the dunes. The desert night wrapped Shiraz in velvet quiet. The stars scattered across the sky were countless, yet each seemed to shine with purpose. The moon hung low, casting silver across the terrace where Princess Layla waited, her small lantern flickering in the gentle wind. Ramin arrived with a soft step, carrying another lantern and a small bundle of parchment. "I thought we could bring the stories from the sand into the light tonight," he said softly, placing the bundle beside him. Layla smiled. "The wind seems to like our secrets," she whispered. "It almost carries them for us." He nodded. "Yes. The north wind, they say, listens to the quietest hearts. Sometimes, it carries messages across dunes, across cities, across the world." Together, they set the lanterns on the terrace, small flames dancing in harmony with the stars above. Ramin unrolled the parchment, revealing sketches of constellations and delicate notes about the paths of planets. He guided her hand gently over the paper, showing her how to map the heavens in soft ink, just as they had traced stories in the sand. As she followed his instructions, Layla felt a subtle warmth, not from the lantern, nor from the moon, but from the closeness of the astronomer beside her. Her fingers brushed his lightly as they worked, a contact so small it might have been imagined, yet it lingered like a secret promise. Ramin spoke quietly, almost to the night itself. "Some lights are steady, no matter the wind. They guide us when the world grows uncertain." Layla looked at him, the lantern between them glowing softly. "Do you mean, the stars?" she asked. "Sometimes the stars," Ramin admitted, "and sometimes, the people who notice them with you." For a long while, they traced constellations together, telling stories of faraway travelers, wandering poets, and brave hunters. Each tale was slow and deliberate, like the turning of the sky itself, and the night seemed to listen. Occasionally, a soft breeze passed, lifting her hair and brushing his shoulder, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from the palace gardens. The world beyond the terrace seemed to vanish. There was only the stars, the lanterns, and the quiet rhythm of two hearts beginning to understand one another. When the first blush of dawn touched the horizon, they remained side by side for a moment longer, letting the silence hold them. Finally, Layla whispered, "I think, The night has its own way of keeping secrets. Ramin nodded. And some of those secrets are meant to be shared. As she returned to her chambers, the lantern's glow fading into the early morning light, both knew that the desert, the stars, and the north wind had woven something delicate and lasting between them. A bond unspoken, yet undeniable, and as steady as the North Star itself. Some lights shine not only in the sky, but in hearts willing to notice. And some nights linger, even when the dawn arrives, carrying whispers that will never fade. The city of Shiraz glimmered under a sky scattered with stars, the desert beyond quiet and endless. Tonight was special, the Festival of Lanterns, a celebration of light in the darkness, where the city's people would release hundreds of lanterns into the sky, watching them float like tiny stars rising from the earth. Princess Layla stepped out of her chambers, her heart fluttering with anticipation. She carried a small lantern, its flame steady and warm in her hands. The streets below the palace shimmered with hundreds of other lights, each one a delicate promise against the dark. Ramin was already waiting near the palace gate, telescope strapped to his side, his satchel containing sketches and notes. When he saw her, he gave a small, almost shy nod. "The lanterns rise tonight," he said softly, "but some lights shine even brighter when shared." Layla smiled, feeling her cheeks warm in the cool night air. "Some lights, like ours," she whispered, a faint tremor of excitement in her voice. Together, they walked slowly through the palace gardens, the lanterns above reflecting in the fountains and pools. Courtiers and townspeople released lights into the sky, each one drifting gracefully, guided by the soft night wind. The city hummed with quiet awe, yet the terrace and gardens around them felt like a private world, untouched by the crowd. Ramin handed her a sketch of the constellations, showing how each lantern might align with the stars. "See," he said softly, "even in the chaos of many lights, each one finds its place. Every flame matters." Layla traced the delicate lines with her finger. "And sometimes, even when we think we are small, we still shine." He looked at her, the lanterns flickering in her eyes. "Exactly." For hours, they wandered among the soft glow, releasing lanterns together, letting them drift toward the heavens. Each light seemed to carry a thought, a secret, a small hope. And each time their hands touched, a quiet warmth passed between them, a feeling neither words nor stars could fully capture. When the last lantern rose, drifting higher than any before, the city's festival seemed to fade behind them. Only the desert, the stars, and their shared silence remained. Layla tilted her head toward him. "I never imagined the night could feel like this," she said softly. Ramin smiled, adjusting the telescope so it caught the last of the lantern's glow. "Some nights are not just seen," he murmured. "They are felt." And under the endless sky of Shiraz, with lanterns floating like fireflies across the heavens, a quiet understanding passed between them. Their bond had deepened, delicate, luminous, and patient, like the stars themselves. Some lights rise not only in the sky, but in hearts willing to see them. And some nights are remembered forever, not for the festival, but for who we share it with. The festival continued in hushed wonder. Lanterns floated higher, their soft flames reflected in the waters of Shiraz's fountains, and the city seemed wrapped in a golden, dreamlike glow. The desert beyond remained quiet, a silent partner to the night's celebration. Princess Layla stood near the palace terrace, her lantern held close. She glanced at Ramin, who was adjusting the telescope beside her, his fingers deft and calm. "Do you think the lanterns hear our wishes?" she asked softly. Ramin smiled, a faint glint of amusement in his eyes. "Perhaps. Some believe the winds carry more than light, they carry secrets, hopes, and dreams. Some even say that the stars themselves remember what the lanterns whisper." Layla tilted her head, imagining her wishes floating above the city, riding on the night wind. "And what about yours?" she asked gently. He hesitated, then gave the faintest smile. "Some secrets," he said softly, "are better shared in silence." The two of them moved closer, letting the lanterns glow surround them. For hours, they traced constellations with their fingers, pointing out the hidden shapes in the sky, naming them with imagination and laughter. Each small touch of hands, each shared glance, became a secret kept between them, delicate and fleeting, like the lanterns themselves. At one moment, Layla laughed softly as a lantern wobbled in the wind. Ramin reached instinctively to steady it, their fingers brushing. The spark was subtle, almost imagined, yet it lingered in the cool night air. "You know," Layla whispered, "the stars above, the lanterns below, they feel like they're listening." Ramin nodded, his eyes on hers for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "And some nights," he said, "the stars, the lanterns, and even the wind, conspire to keep secrets safe. They remain side by side, silent but entirely present in each other's company." The festival around them blurred into soft shapes and distant sounds. What mattered was the night, the lanterns, the stars, and the fragile, luminous bond forming between them. When the last lantern had drifted out of sight, Layla turned toward Ramin. "Tonight feels like it will stay with me forever," she said softly. "And it will," he replied, a faint warmth in his voice. "Some nights are written not in the sky, but in hearts." The two of them lingered in the quiet, letting the magic of the festival and the desert night settle around them. No words were necessary. Some secrets are best shared through presence, through the gentle rhythm of breathing, through the simple act of watching a lantern rise toward the stars. Some lights shine not only above, but between hearts willing to notice them. And some nights, filled with whispered secrets, live forever, even after dawn arrives. The night air was cool and still, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from the palace gardens. The festival had quieted, the lanterns drifting far above, their tiny flames now merging with the countless stars scattered across the sky. Princess Layla stood on the terrace, her hands wrapped around a small, glowing lantern. She glanced at Ramin, who was adjusting the telescope, his brow slightly furrowed in concentration, though his eyes often flicked to the lantern she held. "Do you think the stars can hear wishes?" she asked softly. Ramin's lips curved in a gentle smile. "They can listen," he said. "And sometimes, if you are patient, they answer in ways you cannot predict." Layla raised her lantern, letting it catch the light of the stars. "Then I wish that some secrets could remain ours forever," she whispered. Ramin's gaze lingered on her, the soft glow illuminating her face. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The silence stretched, deep and full, like the space between constellations. And in that silence, an understanding passed, unspoken, delicate, and entirely theirs. "Some wishes," Ramin said finally, his voice barely louder than the wind, "are written not in words, but in the moments we share." Layla tilted her head, her eyes reflecting both lantern and starlight. "Then tonight is a wish." He nodded, stepping closer. The telescope was forgotten for a moment, the parchment and instruments left untouched. Only the stars, the lantern, and the quiet warmth between them existed. For hours, they watched the sky together, tracing constellations, naming imaginary ones, and letting their thoughts drift as freely as the lanterns that had floated above the city. Every small gesture, a hand brushing another, a shared laugh, a lingering glance, became part of the secret story that belonged only to them. When the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, painting the desert in soft pink and gold, Layla whispered, "I think, the night has kept our secret well." Ramin nodded. "And some secrets," he said quietly, "are strongest when shared in silence." They parted reluctantly, hearts light, each carrying the memory of the lanterns, the stars, and the quiet wish that had passed between them. And somewhere above Shiraz, among the countless stars, it felt as if the heavens themselves had nodded in approval, honoring the delicate bond now shining quietly between a princess and an astronomer. Some lights shine not only in the sky, but in hearts willing to notice them. And some wishes, whispered between stars and lanterns, remain forever, even after dawn arrives. The observatory tower rose silently above the palace, its brass domes glinting softly in the pale moonlight. Inside, the air smelled faintly of parchment, ink, and polished wood. The night was still, almost as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. Princess Layla moved carefully up the spiral staircase, her footsteps muffled against the stone. She carried her lantern, though the faint starlight filtering through the windows seemed to illuminate the room enough. Ramin was already there, seated beside a large telescope, his hands adjusting the delicate lenses. When he saw her, a small, almost shy smile touched his lips. "You've come," he said softly. "I promised," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The observatory was their private world. Charts of stars lined the walls, sketches of constellations hung from strings, and small lanterns cast soft, golden circles of light across the polished floor. It felt timeless, as if no moment had ever existed outside this tower. Ramin motioned for her to sit beside him. "Tonight," he said, "we will explore a secret that even the stars cannot hide, the stories they keep for those willing to notice." Layla leaned forward, curiosity shining in her eyes. "Stories? Even the ones hidden from everyone else?" "Yes," he whispered, pointing toward the telescope. "Every star has a tale. Some are loud, bright, and easy to see. Others are quiet, hidden behind darkness, waiting for someone patient to find them." Together, they studied the heavens, tracing faint constellations with their fingers, sketching patterns that spoke of ancient journeys, forgotten travelers, and distant worlds. As Ramin explained each story, Layla listened, captivated. She felt as though the night itself had become a teacher, the stars guiding her understanding in ways words could not fully capture. At one point, their hands brushed over a parchment, and neither pulled away. The touch was fleeting but lingered in the warmth of the room, like the faint echo of a shared heartbeat. "Do you think," Layla asked softly, "that some stories are meant to be shared only with one person?" Ramin looked at her, the telescope forgotten for a moment. "Some stories," he said gently, "are brightest when shared quietly, in a place no one else can reach. Secrets of the night, the stars, and perhaps, the heart." The hours passed in gentle silence, broken only by the soft scratching of pen on parchment and the occasional distant sigh of wind brushing the tower. Outside, the city slept, and above, the stars continued their eternal dance, oblivious to the quiet bond forming beneath them. Some secrets exist not to be told, but to be felt. And some nights, spent in quiet study of the heavens, linger forever in memory, like constellations etched in the heart. The night had deepened, and the observatory tower was wrapped in quiet shadow. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, pale under the moonlight, while the city below slumbered, unaware of the worlds unfolding above it. Princess Layla knelt beside a large parchment, her fingers tracing faint lines of constellations Ramin had drawn earlier. "It's like a secret map," she whispered. "A world hidden in plain sight." Ramin smiled, leaning closer to guide her hand. "Exactly. And each star on this map has a story. Some are easy to see, and some are hidden, waiting for someone patient enough to notice them." She dipped her brush in ink, carefully marking a tiny cluster of stars that had seemed insignificant at first. "Like this one?" she asked, pointing. "Yes," he said softly. "A star that many overlook, but whose light has traveled farther than the brightest among them. Sometimes, the quietest lights hold the most important stories." Layla's heart seemed to beat in rhythm with the gentle scratch of ink on parchment. "And, can these stories change?" Ramin hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Every observer adds a new story, a new layer of meaning. The night sky is alive, just as long as someone is willing to look closely." For hours, they worked together, slowly charting the constellations, adding imagined shapes and stories. Layla's laughter rose softly whenever Ramin gently corrected her or praised her imaginative ideas. Each small shared smile was a quiet bridge between them, more luminous than any star on the map. At one point, their hands brushed over the parchment again. Layla froze slightly, the warmth of his touch lingering longer than necessary. Ramin's gaze met hers, soft and steady. No words were spoken, the night itself seemed to hold its breath. "Some stars," Ramin murmured, "are brightest when someone notices them, and remembers their place in the sky." Layla looked at him, her eyes reflecting the faint lantern light. "Like people?" she whispered. "Yes," he said quietly. "And sometimes, those people become your own hidden stars." The wind outside whispered against the tower walls, carrying a hint of desert jasmine. The observatory felt timeless, a space untouched by the day, where stars, ink, and quiet companionship blended into something sacred. Some maps chart more than stars. Some constellations are drawn not in the heavens, but in the hearts of those willing to see. As dawn's first light crept over the horizon, they stepped back from the parchment, hands brushing one final time. The city awoke beneath them, unaware of the quiet stories and luminous bonds that had grown in the stillness of the night. The observatory was quiet under a sky blanketed in stars. The city of Shiraz lay asleep below, the soft hush of night holding every secret in its gentle embrace. Princess Layla knelt beside the telescope, her fingers brushing faintly against the brass as she peered at the heavens. "It feels endless," she whispered. "So many stars, and each one is different." Ramin moved beside her, adjusting the telescope for her view. "Some are bright, some faint," he said softly. "Some tell stories that last thousands of years. Others are quiet, yet their light reaches you when you need it most." Layla glanced at him, a warmth rising in her chest she could not name. "And some are like people," she murmured. "We notice them, and they change something inside us." Ramin's gaze lingered on her for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "Yes," he said softly. Some stars find their way into hearts. For a long while, they watched the heavens together, tracing constellations with their fingers, naming imaginary ones, and sharing quiet stories. Every glance, every subtle touch of hands over the telescope, carried a secret language, delicate and luminous, unspoken yet understood. The desert wind whispered against the observatory walls, bringing the faint scent of jasmine from the gardens below. Layla smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting both the stars above and the gentle light from the lantern at their side. "Do you think," she asked softly, "that one star could be ours?" Ramin looked at her, the corners of his lips turning upward in a quiet smile. "I think," he whispered, "that some stars belong not to the sky, but to the hearts that notice them." They remained side by side, silent, letting the night carry them in its stillness. The observatory had become a world apart, a place where stars, ink, and quiet companionship intertwined. And somewhere between the heavens and their hearts, a new light had begun to glow, small, steady, and entirely theirs. Some stars shine not only above, but between hearts willing to notice them. And some nights, spent in quiet wonder, linger forever, like constellations drawn in the soul. As the first pale streaks of dawn painted the horizon, they reluctantly stepped away from the telescope, carrying the warmth of the night with them. And though the city woke beneath them, the observatory and its secrets remained suspended in a timeless space, a star shared between two hearts, glowing quietly, endlessly. The palace was hushed, wrapped in moonlight and the faint scent of jasmine. The corridors were empty, the grand halls asleep, leaving only the quiet footsteps of Princess Layla as she slipped through the shadows. Tonight, she was not heading to the terrace. She had discovered a secret, a small, hidden garden tucked behind a lattice of ancient marble. It was a place forgotten by the world, yet alive with the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle shimmer of dew under the moonlight. Ramin waited there, leaning lightly against the edge of a marble fountain. His eyes reflected the silver glow of the night, and in that moment, the garden seemed to belong entirely to them. "You found it," Layla whispered, awe in her voice. "I've known it was here," Ramin replied softly. "But it seems the garden waits for the right company to come alive." She stepped forward, the cool stone beneath her feet blending with the faint fragrance of blooming flowers. "It feels like a secret meant for two," she said, her voice barely above the whispering breeze. Together, they wandered among the paths lined with fragrant blossoms, tracing the edges of fountains and hidden statues. Each step was deliberate, slow, as if the world outside had melted away, leaving only the quiet intimacy of the garden, the night, and the soft warmth of shared presence. Ramin bent to examine a small lantern hanging from a tree branch. Its flame flickered gently in the night wind. "The lanterns are like small stars brought down to earth," he murmured. "And perhaps, they remind us that even in secret places, light can find a way." Layla smiled faintly, her hand brushing his as she reached for a flower. "Some lights are brighter when shared quietly," she whispered. For hours, they moved slowly through the garden, talking softly, sharing observations about flowers, stars, and the quiet rhythm of the night. Every glance, every subtle touch, seemed amplified in the stillness around them, like a secret echo bouncing off the marble and petals. At one point, Layla reached out to steady a lantern swaying in the breeze. Their fingers lingered, and Ramin's gaze held hers. "Some nights," he said softly, "are meant to be remembered, not for what is said, but for what is felt." Layla nodded, her heart light yet steady. "I will remember tonight," she whispered. Forever. And in the quiet of the hidden garden, beneath the silver gaze of the moon and the faint shimmer of lanterns, a delicate bond grew stronger, luminous, unspoken, and entirely theirs. Some gardens hide more than flowers. Some nights leave traces not in memory alone, but in the quiet light shared between hearts. The garden lay hushed under the silver gaze of the moon. Shadows of leaves danced softly across marble paths, and the air was thick with the gentle scent of night-blooming jasmine. Every sound seemed amplified, the faint rustle of petals, the soft trickle of water from a distant fountain, and the steady rhythm of their own breathing. Princess Layla stepped carefully toward the center, where a small, round fountain glimmered in the moonlight. Its water shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the stars above. Ramin followed, his hands brushing lightly against the marble railings, as if the garden itself demanded reverence. This fountain, Ramin whispered, has been here longer than anyone remembers. Some say the water carries whispers from every night it has seen. Layla leaned over, letting the cool mist touch her face. And what do you hear? She asked softly, her eyes reflecting the silver light. Ramin bent beside her, their shoulders almost touching. I hear the quiet, he murmured, and sometimes, the things we cannot say aloud. Secrets, wishes, small hopes, they all linger here. She turned toward him, the faintest smile brushing her lips. Like our secrets? Yes, he said softly. And some secrets, he added, his voice lower, grow brighter when shared in a place like this. They sat side by side on the edge of the fountain, the water lapping quietly beneath their hands. For a long while, neither spoke, letting the night, the moon, and the silver glow of the fountain fill the space between them. Every gentle glance, every subtle shift closer, became a language all their own. Ramin pointed toward the reflection of the stars in the water. Do you see how they shimmer, even in the ripples? He asked. Some lights are not steady, yet they are beautiful, because they adapt to the world around them. Perhaps we are like that too. Layla looked down at the water, tracing her fingers through the reflection. Adapting, and still shining, she murmured. Yes, Ramin whispered. Even quietly, even when unnoticed, some lights endure. For hours, they lingered by the fountain, tracing constellations reflected in the water, sharing small stories, and feeling the quiet intimacy of the garden wrap around them. Outside, the city slept, but inside the hidden space of marble, flowers, and moonlight, a new depth of connection glimmered, tender, patient, and luminous. When dawn's first glow touched the horizon, they rose slowly, leaving the fountain to its eternal vigil. The night had been theirs, a secret kept by moonlight, water, and the garden's soft shadows. And in their hearts, the memory shimmered like the reflected stars, quiet, unspoken, and entirely unforgettable. Some fountains hold more than water. Some nights leave traces not in words, but in hearts touched by silver light and shared silence. The hidden garden seemed to hold its breath as night deepened, the moon casting silver shadows across the paths. Lanterns hung from the trees, swaying gently in the cool breeze, their warm glow mixing with the pale light of the stars above. Princess Layla wandered slowly beneath the soft canopy, her fingers brushing the petals of flowers glowing faintly in the night. She felt the presence of Ramin beside her, quiet but steady, like a calm star in a vast sky. They are beautiful, she whispered, nodding toward the lanterns. Like tiny stars fallen to earth. Ramin glanced at her, a soft smile touching his lips. Some lights, he said gently, are meant to guide, even in secret places. And some are meant to stay quietly with the ones who notice them. Layla looked up at him, her heart stirring. Like you? She asked softly. He met her gaze, the moonlight catching the edge of his eyes. Perhaps, he said quietly. Some promises are silent, yet they are just as bright as words spoken aloud. They walked slowly through the garden, side by side, their hands occasionally brushing as they adjusted lanterns or traced flowers along the paths. Every gentle touch, every glance, carried a quiet understanding, a promise not spoken, but deeply felt. Ramin paused near a small fountain, lifting a lantern so it hung above the water. Its reflection shimmered like liquid gold. This lantern, he whispered, reminds me of the night, delicate, fleeting, yet beautiful because it is shared. Layla stepped closer, letting her fingers hover near his. Some moments are brighter than any star, she murmured. Yes, he said softly, because they are remembered quietly, carried in the heart and shared without words. They lingered there for a long while, letting the garden, the lanterns, and the moonlight hold them in its soft embrace. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the silent promises and small wonders blossoming in this hidden corner of the world. When dawn's first light began to touch the marble, they stepped back, leaving the lanterns swaying gently in the breeze. The night had given them more than beauty, it had given them a shared secret, a quiet bond that would endure long after the stars faded. Some promises are silent. Some lights, when shared in quiet understanding, shine brighter than any spoken word. The desert stretched endlessly beyond Shiraz, silvered under the quiet light of a full moon. Soft winds whispered across the dunes, carrying the faint scent of distant wildflowers and the warmth of daytime sand slowly cooling. Princess Layla stood at the edge of the palace gate, a small satchel slung over her shoulder, her lantern swinging gently in her hand. Ramin was already waiting, his telescope packed away, a compass and a map in his hands. "Are you sure it's safe?" she asked softly, her voice barely above the hush of the night. Ramin smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "The desert can be patient," he said quietly. "It watches, listens, and protects those who move gently and with care." Together, they stepped onto a narrow, hidden path leading from the palace into the dunes, a secret trail known only to a few. The sand under their feet was cool and soft, and the wind carried an almost musical hum, like the desert itself was guiding them forward. Ramin held the map, pointing out small markers and hidden oases. "Each path has a story," he murmured. "Some are old, some are new, but all are meant for those patient enough to follow them." Layla traced the line of the path with her finger, feeling a thrill of quiet excitement. "It feels endless," she whispered, "like the night itself." "Yes," Ramin said softly. "But the journey matters more than the end. Every step, every whisper of the wind, leaves its mark." They walked slowly, deliberately, the soft sand muffling their steps. At intervals, Ramin stopped to point out constellations and faint reflections of moonlight on distant dunes. Each small pause became a lesson, a story, and a shared moment. When their hands brushed lightly over the compass, Layla felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was a quiet, steady connection, the kind that did not need words, only presence. Hours passed as they traced the secret path, the desert stretching like a silver ocean under the stars. Every small dune, every distant shadow, felt alive with possibility. And beneath the vast, endless sky, their bond deepened, luminous, patient, and entirely theirs. Some paths are hidden for a reason. Some journeys are remembered not for where they lead, but for who walks them beside you. The secret path led them deeper into the desert, the moon painting everything in silver and soft shadows. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint hum of distant dunes and the gentle murmur of desert grasses swaying in the night breeze. Ahead, a faint shimmer caught Layla's eye. "Ramin, look," she whispered, pointing. He smiled, adjusting the satchel on his shoulder. "The oasis," he said softly. "Few know it even exists. The desert keeps it for those willing to seek quietly." They stepped carefully into the hidden clearing. The oasis glimmered under the moonlight, its small pool reflecting the stars above like a mirror. Palm trees swayed softly, and delicate flowers bordered the water, their fragrance mingling with the cool desert air. Layla knelt beside the pool, letting her fingers touch the water's surface. "It feels alive," she murmured. Ramin crouched beside her, tracing a finger along the edge of the pool. "The desert holds many secrets," he said softly, "but the quietest ones are the most beautiful. They are meant to be discovered together, without rush, without words." For hours, they lingered by the oasis. Ramin pointed out constellations reflected in the water, and Layla mirrored the shapes with small sketches in the sand. Their hands brushed occasionally, lingering just long enough to make each heartbeat echo quietly in the night. "Do you think anyone else will ever find this place?" Layla asked softly, her eyes on the mirrored stars. "Perhaps," Ramin whispered, "but some secrets are meant for two hearts only. They grow brighter when shared quietly, carefully, like this." The night wrapped them in its stillness, the desert breeze carrying whispers of distant dunes, as if the world itself honored their secret. Lanterns of fireflies flickered along the palm fronds, mirroring the stars above and the quiet warmth growing between them. When the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, Layla and Ramin remained side by side for a long moment, letting the oasis, the stars, and the gentle desert wind imprint themselves on memory. Some waters reflect more than stars. Some secrets, whispered between hearts, shine brighter than the desert moon. The desert night was deep and quiet, with only the soft whisper of wind across the dunes. The oasis shimmered under the moon, its calm water reflecting both the stars above and the gentle glow of the lanterns Ramin had carried. Princess Layla sat on the edge of the pool, her reflection mingling with the silver light. She held a small lantern in her hands, its flame steady against the desert breeze. Ramin knelt beside her, placing his own lantern next to hers, so that their lights merged into one gentle glow. "Do you think," she whispered, "that the stars watch over all of this?" Ramin's gaze lingered on the reflection of the lanterns. "Yes," he said softly. "And they record quiet moments like these. Moments that belong only to those who notice them." They watched the lanterns together, tracing their flames in the still water, feeling the steady pulse of the desert night around them. Each small touch of their hands, each shared glance, carried a weight and warmth neither needed to speak aloud. "Some lights," Layla murmured, "are meant to guide you, even when you don't know the way." "Yes," Ramin said, his voice gentle. "And some are meant to stay with you, even after the night ends." For a long while, they sat in silence, letting the desert wind, the moonlight, and the stars above fill the space between them. Every ripple in the water, every distant whisper of sand across the dunes, seemed to echo the quiet promise forming in their hearts. Finally, as the first pale streaks of dawn brushed the horizon, Layla lifted her lantern. "This is the last one," she whispered. Ramin nodded, his hand brushing hers as they let the light rise together. The lantern floated upward, mingling with the stars fading in the early light, carrying with it their quiet wishes, their shared secret, and the tender bond that had grown between them. They rose slowly, leaving the oasis behind, but the memory of that night, of the lanterns, the desert, and the unspoken understanding between them, lingered like a constellation in their hearts, luminous and eternal. Some lights rise and fade. Some moments, shared in quiet wonder, remain forever, like stars reflected in still waters. The night sky stretched endlessly above Shiraz, dusted with stars that glittered like scattered diamonds. The city below slept peacefully, unaware of the wonders unfolding in the quiet hours above. Princess Layla and Ramin stood side by side on the palace terrace, their small lanterns casting warm circles of light around them. Tonight was different, the constellations seemed to shine with a deliberate clarity, as if the heavens themselves were arranging the story they had been weaving together. "Do you think the stars notice us?" Layla asked softly, her gaze tracing the patterns above. Ramin adjusted the telescope, then looked at her with a faint smile. "They notice everything," he said quietly. "Every step we've taken, every secret shared, every silent promise. And some nights, they reward patience with a constellation of our own." Layla's eyes widened slightly. "A constellation, for us?" "Yes," Ramin whispered. "Not one that everyone can see, but one that will always be there. A constellation of the moments we've shared, hidden in plain sight, written in the light of the stars." They spent hours together tracing familiar constellations, marking new ones in their shared sketches, and quietly naming stars after small, treasured memories, the laughter at the fountain, the brush of hands in the garden, the rising lanterns over the desert dunes. Each name was a whisper, a soft promise carried into the night sky. At one point, Ramin held Layla's hand gently. "Some lights," he murmured, "shine brightest when two hearts notice them together." Layla looked up at him, a soft warmth blooming in her chest. "Then, our stars will always shine," she whispered. The wind carried the scent of jasmine from the palace gardens, brushing softly against their faces. The terrace, the lanterns, and the starlit sky seemed to cocoon them in a world apart, a timeless space where only the quiet rhythm of two hearts mattered. As the first hint of dawn tinged the horizon, they remained side by side, knowing that even as the city woke below, their constellation, delicate, secret, and luminous, would remain above, a testament to the quiet, enduring bond they had forged beneath the Persian night sky. Some constellations exist not only above, but in hearts that notice the quiet beauty of shared moments. And some nights, woven with secrets and lantern light, remain eternal, like stars written just for two. The night had deepened once more, though the horizon held the faintest glow of dawn. The terrace was quiet, save for the soft murmur of the wind weaving through the palace gardens and the distant call of a night bird. Princess Layla leaned on the railing, her eyes tracing the familiar constellations above. Each star seemed to carry a memory, the lanterns over the city, the hidden garden, the oasis deep in the desert. Every shared secret, every gentle brush of hands, glimmered in the sky like tiny, steadfast lights. Ramin stepped close, his voice a soft whisper. "Do you remember the first night we watched the lanterns rise?" Layla smiled faintly, her fingers brushing his. "I remember. It felt like the whole sky was listening to our whispers. And it was, he said quietly. Every star we've traced, every constellation we've imagined together, it remembers us. Even when no one else does. The air was still and full of quiet reverence, as if the world itself had paused to honor the bond they shared. Layla rested her head lightly against his shoulder. Sometimes I think, she murmured, that the night has always been waiting for us. For these moments, these whispers. Ramin's hand brushed hers again, a slow, gentle affirmation. Some nights, he said softly, are made not for the world, but for two hearts willing to notice them. And some whispers linger longer than the stars themselves. They spent hours there, tracing constellations with their fingers, naming stars after small, secret memories, and sharing quiet laughter. Every word unspoken carried weight, every glance held meaning. The terrace, the city below, and the stars above became a private universe, delicate, luminous, and entirely theirs. When the first light of dawn stretched across the sky, painting the desert and city in soft hues of gold and rose, Layla whispered, "I wish these moments could last forever." Ramin tightened his hand around hers. "They already do," he said. "Not just in memory, but in the quiet constellation we've drawn together. A constellation that will always shine between us. Some stars shine not only above, but in the quiet spaces shared between hearts. And some whispers, carried on the night wind, remain eternal, like constellations written just for two." The Persian night sky stretched endlessly above Shiraz, scattered with stars that shimmered like 1,000 tiny lanterns. The city below slept quietly, wrapped in the soft hush of early morning, while the terrace above held a secret universe of light and shared hearts. Princess Layla and Ramin stood side by side, lanterns flickering softly at their feet. They had spent countless nights tracing constellations, sharing whispered secrets, and charting the stories of stars. Tonight, the heavens seemed to shimmer differently, as if the sky itself had paused to watch. Ramin took her hand gently. "Do you see that cluster?" he asked, pointing to a small formation of stars just above the horizon. "No one else knows it's there. Not yet. But it has always been waiting, for us." Layla's eyes widened. The stars sparkled, delicate and steady, and in that quiet brilliance, she felt the culmination of all the nights they had shared. Is it ours?" she whispered. "Yes," he said softly. "A constellation of our own. A map of the moments we've lived together. Every secret, every lantern, every quiet word between us, written into the heavens." For a long while, they stood in silence, letting the night, the stars, and their hearts speak in ways words could not. The lanterns at their feet mirrored the constellations above, small flames reflecting infinite light, like tiny echoes of the bond between them. Layla rested her head lightly on Ramin's shoulder. "It feels eternal," she murmured. "And it is," he whispered. "Some bonds, like some stars, shine forever, quiet, patient, unwavering. And now, ours does too." The desert wind whispered around them, carrying the scent of jasmine and the faint rustle of distant palms. The city slowly stirred below, but above, on the terrace bathed in moonlight and the soft glow of lanterns, time seemed to pause. Their constellation had been born, a luminous testament to shared secrets, gentle love, and countless nights of quiet wonder. As the first light of dawn spread across the horizon, Layla and Ramin let their lanterns rise together one last time. The flames drifted upward, mingling with the stars, carrying their silent promises, their whispered hopes, and the memory of every night they had spent under the Persian sky. Some constellations exist not only above, but in hearts that notice, cherish, and remember. And some nights, filled with quiet secrets and shared light, shine forever, a constellation of forever. The terrace fell silent as the sun rose, painting the world in soft gold. And somewhere high above, among the countless stars, their story glimmered, eternal, gentle, and entirely theirs.